It's like dumb to even say core.
Eldora, it's a little bit more core, a little bit more low-key. I'm still probably the most Hesh person here.
What does it mean to you when someone says
Hesh? Nah, you can be a Hesh skier.
Who is that? Oh, he's Hesh.
Knuckle huck Hesh?
Oh, dude, no. Honestly, no.
Nah, you can't be a
You can't be Hesh and knuckle huck.
I'm cool, not Hesh. Can't be spinning that much. Really not Hesh. Have a good time at college.
Dude, I promise I'm Hesh.
What's good, snowboarders? Welcome to the core versus Hesh Venn diagram YouTube yapping video. We're going to be looking at all these different items and putting them in their respective place in this here Venn diagram. And my justification for making this video is I have reason to believe that the Hesh stock is skyrocketing. It's going to go to the moon. It's been like a cool word for a minute now, but I think it's about to go mainstream in the coming snowboard seasons. This is a business move on my part as an investment in the Hesh stock. Let me show you what's going on in the market. Core has been a word on decline for a minute now. Before I was even snowboarding, when I was just a mere skater, core was on decline. I think there are some reasons for core being on decline. One is definitely YouTubers and influencers making core cringe as fuck, such as my videos. You know, anytime I drop anything about core snowboarding, the term core definitely takes a hit. But there are bigger reasons. One, it's very difficult to define core, while Hesh doesn't really have that problem. Two, anytime that somebody even tries to define core, they're like, oh, I think it's a silly word, you know, core is kind of a weird term.
It's like dumb to even say core now.
You know, nobody ever says Hesh is a silly word. People fuck with Hesh, dog. And the other one is like, some people hate the word core, you know?
Core is a shitty word. Right off the gate, it's just a weird word.
You could listen to a bombhole podcast about people talking about core snowboarding. Some people love it, and some people will sit across from the person that loves it and absolutely hate the word core. Nobody's out here hating the word Hesh, dude. Everybody loves Hesh. And it's got to the point now where the kiddos, the young bucks, they don't even want to be core. They think that's cringe. They think it's lame. The next gen, the youngins, dude, they want two things. They either want to be a Red Bull sponsored athlete, or if they don't want to go that cringe Red Bull route, they want to be Hesh. And Hesh is going to the moon. And I think this mainstream revitalization of the word Hesh really took place with the original Dustbox video. People were flabbergasted by this video because it seemed like it didn't have a lot of corporate sponsorship. It was just people jumping on gnarly handrails and being Hesh about it. And then, of course, we got Jake Aaronson, aka East Bumfuck, who has probably been Hesh since before birth. And he's like doing a lot right now to promote the idea that you could film your own street parts, you could film your own video parts, you could be self-funded, you know, no corporate influence with the way East Bumfuck conducts himself, which is incredibly Hesh. This is still really just going on in a small niche corner of snowboarding. Sometimes to understand what's about to happen, you know, the future of the Hesh stock, we unfortunately need to look at what's going on in skiing. The 303 Gene Ski video, this is a great indicator that the Hesh stock is about to go through the roof. And of course, the Sickos YouTube channel. And ultimately, the reason why I'm sitting here today and making this Venn diagram video is I came across this YouTube video on my feed a couple weeks ago. Red Bull Pro teaches skiers to snowboard by the Sickos. Based off the thumbnail, this thumbnail looks exactly how the video went. It's a very YouTube-y, but not in a bad way. It was still a good video. These Sickos boys, you know, they're good at editing. They're good at storytelling. I was actually intrigued for a whole 26 minutes. They are a little zesty.
You guys look like you're about to kiss right now.
I don't know about this, bro. I might have to scoot over.
Like, guys love it. Yeah.
Guys?
Yeah. All the call girls.
It's a little zesty.
Yeah.
But you know, they're curious in what it means to be Hesh. So let's play the tapes.
Okay. Yeah, that's a little small.
Is this hash, Zach?
Yeah.
You heard people say hash before?
Oh yeah. That's
What's
like
your meaning? Like, what does it mean to you when someone says hash?
Hesh?
Is it like?
I mean, it's just super chill.
That's like a way to describe it without describing it.
Y'all got me on the spot, heavy.
They did put him on the spot, you know. Hesh, you can't. Well, actually, Hesh is pretty easy to define. Hesh is if the Trailer Park Boys snowboarded. Think if Ricky, Julian, or Bubbles, you know, if they snowboarded in the show, how would they snowboard? Would they be driving to Copper Mountain, spending $200 on a lift ticket, or buying an Icon Pass? Definitely not. They would, like, find a plank of wood, steal some bindings, make some sort of scheme out of it, hop on a handrail, record that with some crappy VHS camera, and then try to sell it to the people of the trailer park for some extra dough, and they would make a dope-ass street edit. You know, if the Trailer Park Boys snowboarded, that is the epitome of what it means to be Hesh.
Fucking awesome.
Dude, like, Hesh is like, how do I explain Hesh?
What's one thing that's not Hesh?
Hesh? Nah, you can be a Hesh skier.
I would say hash is like.
All right. If I was surrounded by a group of skiers and they asked me if skiing is Hesh, dude, I'd be like, yeah, skiing's Hesh. You know, so this is kind of unfair. However, I would agree you can be a Hesh skier. You know, I'm not going to try to roast you skiers too hard. I know Hesh skiers are my friends, but is skiing as a whole Hesh? And absolutely not. I'll just play a couple clips to prove my point. You know, skiing is way too country club to be Hesh. Is skiing core, though? The way I define core, and you know, there's a billion definitions, that's why core is on the decline, but I think the best way to define core is the actual definition of it, which is like if something is fundamental or essential to its very existence. The part of something that is central to its existence or character. I think this is the best definition of what it means to be a core snowboarder or core snowboarding. And this poses an interesting question. Could snowboarding have existed without the existence of skiing taking place first? And that's tough, you know. If skiing didn't exist, maybe it could have taken place because of the surfing and skating side of things. If skiing wasn't around before snowboarding, I don't know if snowboarding would exist. And based on that definition, skiing is central and core to snowboarding. One could argue that, but I'm not going to make that argument. My gut says skiing is not core and not Hesh. So, boom! Get wrecked, skiers. Get out of my core Venn diagram. Alright, back to the Red Bull. Red Bull Pro teaches skiers to snowboard tape.
Like, maybe you're cooking some eggs in the morning and then you just take it off the burner and eat them like that.
That's more savage. I don't think that's Hesh.
Oh, yeah.
Alright.
True.
I gotta give the guy some credit, dude. I think some skillet eggs right off the skillet, no silverware, just spatula that egg into your mouth. I think that's pretty Hesh, dog. You know, you could be in the parking lot cooking some engine eggs, you know, on your Honda Accord. I think that's pretty fucking Hesh, dog. Not gonna lie. Zeb's right too in that it's savage. There should be another circle right here for savage and Hesh, and that's where eggs straight off the skillet would go. Alright, we should have some real takes coming up here in a second.
True. I would say maybe it's just
Nah,
like...
that's me like trying to eat a sandwich, and I'm like, you know what? Fuck the sandwich.
Not either. Not either.
That's Hesh.
Too cool for hell.
Hesh people are far too poor and hungry to not finish their sandwiches.
Like you're in a Subway, you're like halfway through, they're asking if you want it toasted, and you say nah, and then you leave.
Knuckle huck Hesh?
Oh, dude. No, honestly, no.
Nah, you can't be in. You can't be Hesh and knuckle huck, bro.
Alright, finally, and actually a good question. Is knuckle huck Hesh? Zeb said no, and I'd have to agree. Is knuckle huck core? No. far too contesty. Not core, not Hesh. That doesn't mean it's not cool. I enjoy watching knuckle huck, but you know, knuckle huck is not central. Competition snowboarding is not central to the existence of snowboarding, okay? And now we have an interesting question. Is Zeb Powell Hesh? And off rip, you know, it's a pretty easy no for me, without taking a deeper dive, which we will in a sec. But it's an easy no off rip because he knuckle hucks. He is the most popular snowboarder alive. He is sponsored by Burton and Air Jordan. Not the most Hesh moves one can do. But then if you look at his street vids, dude, he has some Hesh tendencies. Let's play the clips. Backlip, very Hesh. Stairs shoveled, pretty Hesh. Back 50, also a Hesh trick. Getting bucked, Hesh. Alright, that was not Hesh. Fucking concrete. Hesh, dog. That's what's up. And you know, this is not just like a one-time random video part. He's consistently in the streets, getting fucked up by a chain. That's Hesh, dog. you know what I'm saying? You know, but he's not the most Hesh snowboarder out here. Like his street snowboarding is not why he is famous. Most people don't care at all about Zeb's street clips. But you know what? This video is currently unavailable. No, most people aren't tuning in to Zeb Powell to watch him hit a handrail in the streets. You know, at this point, 2023, Zeb does not need to be in the streets. He would still be the most famous, you know, the biggest guy in snowboarding if he wasn't in the Bloom street video. And the fact that he is still riding the streets is very respectable. And I hope and pray to the snowboard gods that he continues his street snowboarding career, because he is fun to watch in the streets and he doesn't always follow the core and Hesh tricks that people usually do when they're street snowboarding. For example, like this banger about to come up.
Frankie,
Boom! Street backflip. Now, you know, that's not the most core, that's not the most Hesh maneuver one could do, but one of the better clips in the entire video part. Zeb's non-Hesh tendencies certainly outweigh his Hesh tendencies. You know, he's not really a Hesh snowboarder, but there's a little bit in him, as I showed you in those 3 street parts. Street backflip, not Hesh, not core. The reason Zeb is core, even though he has also some uncore tendencies, like being sponsored by Air Jordan, which isn't even a snowboard company, Zeb, he just snowboards because it's fun. You could tell, like, he doesn't care about the rules, and, you know, he just shows up, does whatever he thinks will be the coolest, most fun thing.
Which is core.
And it would be a crime if I didn't put him in the core circle. Is he the most core? Is he the most Hesh snowboarder of all time? Certainly not. But if he was, he would be boring, he wouldn't be original, and I'm very glad that he is unique in his snowboarding and not another dust box, handrail, copycat snowboarder. You know, if he only hit handrails, if he only did, you know, the tricks that were called core and not street backflips and not ride his, check this clip out. You know, this is not necessarily core. That's kind of gross looking how flaily he is. But so fucking dope. You know what I'm saying? So
Zeb's originality is very refreshing. Zeb is core. End of discussion.
Alright, substances, weed, alcohol. Are they core to snowboarding? Believe it or not, no. They are not core to the existence of snowboarding, even if you think they are. But they are certainly Hesh, dog. You gotta have a couple brews, smoke a little bit if you want to be a Hesh snowboarder, you know? It's part of it. Alright, this icon down here represents street snowboarding, and as you guys know, street snowboarding is core, and of course, it is very Hesh. It is Hesh both aesthetically and on like a fundamental level because it is free. You don't need a pass to do it. You don't need to live in the mountains or be super rich. You can live in North Dakota, watch your favorite Jed Anderson part, and be inspired to go out on a cold February day and hop on your local high school handrail, which is inherently Hesh and inherently core. Even if you don't have the skill level to hit a handrail, you could still go out on a sledding hill and learn how to turn down a hill, build a little jump, a little kicker. That's all urban snowboarding. It's all free, and it's all incredibly Hesh because you're not using the ski area to snowboard. So street snowboarding is inherently core, inherently Hesh. There are ways to destroy this purity of street snowboarding, and one of them is by using a winch. And a winch is a double-sided sword because on one hand, a winch is $1,000. You need a crew to operate it. That's not very Hesh. That's not as inspirational to that North Dakota guy because, you know, he doesn't have access to a winch or a crew. But on the other hand, winches really open up the creative world for street snowboarding. Anything is possible with a winch. In street skating, skaters are confined to cement, so they are very limited. And as you know, most things in the world are not cement, but with a little bit of snow, you could snowboard literally anything. And with a winch, you have infinite speed, and that's why our sickest, most creative clips are all thanks to these winches. So yeah, winches are core, but they're not Hesh because pretty sure a winch costs over $1,000. If you are going to use motorized speed, there are some more aesthetically Hesh ways of acquiring the speed. One is by using a car. You know, there are cars everywhere. You can find a homie with a car to get your speed. And two is the Alex Stewart motorbike pull-in method. Aesthetically, it looks way cooler than using a winch. Both core and Hesh, but still motorized speed is not the most Hesh way of hitting a handrail of street snowboarding. You shouldn't need gasoline in order to snowboard. The most Hesh and natural way of snowboarding is, of course, natural speed. The good old tires and pallets method. So if you're taking notes right now and you're like, all right, I'm trying to be the most Hesh snowboarder alive. I'm gonna go to North Dakota, gonna find a gnarly high school handrail, and I'm gonna build a drop-in out of tires and pallets in order to hit this. You've done all that, you're about to drop in, and you may be asking yourself, all right, what is the most Hesh trick that I can do right now? What stunt should I clip up in order to be certifiably Hesh? And that's a great question. And I call this the holy trinity of Hesh tricks. The back 50, the front side board, and the backside lip slide. Because none of these are technical in the sense that you're not spinning on, you're not spinning off. But all these tricks are far more difficult and far cooler than their counterparts.
A back 50, like a billion times cooler than a front 50. Front side board slide, a million, jillion, billion times cooler than a backboard. And of course a back lip is cooler than all of these tricks, but still much cooler than a front lip.
If you're wanting to be Hesh, local high school handrail with a couple kinks on it, a drop-in made out of tires and pallets, and do some sort of back lip stunt on that handrail in North Dakota, and that's, you know, that is one of the Heshest clips to exist right now, if one were to do that. Now, let's say some sort of hypothetical street edit exists of only back 50s, front boards, and backside lip slides. Let's say a pro dropped a street part and he only included these clips. Core snowboarders would accuse this part of lacking variety, of lacking technical tricks. Where's the spinning on? Where's the spinning off? Where is the switch tricks? Where is the switch backside, they would claim. And these core snowboarders, they have some sort of sick fetish for switch backside. They love it so much. But the reality is, your average Hesh snowboarder is too drunk or high to perform these switch backside maneuvers. You know, real Hesh snowboarders can't even ride switch. So, yeah, switch tricks, very core, and don't get me wrong, switch backside, I got a little bit of a fetish for that too. But I want to bring up the faux switch deceiver. Now, a lot of people call faux switch tricks fakey because that's what it's called. I'm trying to switch it up. I like faux switch a little bit more, and faux switch indicates that it is easier than the regular counterpart. So a common example of a faux switch trick would be a cab 180 to 50-50 or a switchboard same way. Switchboard same way is way easier than a regular board slide same way. And a cab 180 on is way easier than a regular 180 on. So these are faux switch tricks, and there's nothing inherently wrong about doing these faux switch tricks because they're pretty fun and pretty easy. Who I'm going to talk about here is the faux switch deceiver, and I'm bringing this up because I was hiking a tube at Winter Park the other day, and I was making some detailed observations of what I was witnessing. This guy was doing a cab 180 onto the tube, and his homie gave him some props for it. This guy does a switch 180 on 50-50 through the tube, and he made it back up, and his homie was like, yo dude, that was sick, pounded him, and then his homie had the audacity to be like, dude, that was switch too. And then the more novice snowboarder was like, what, dude, that was switch? Fuck yeah, bro. This is where a truthful snowboarder would be like, yeah, it was switch, but, that switch trick is actually easier than the regular version, it's a faux switch trick. But this guy just accepted this.
Kudos.
He's like, yeah, switch 180 on, pretty badass. And the faux switch deceiver is somebody that uses these easier switch tricks as kudo points to his buddies who are more novice, because most switch tricks are substantially harder than the regular counterparts, but there are some faux switch tricks that are much easier. And a faux switch deceiver takes the credit for these faux switch tricks and doesn't explain that these tricks are actually easier, and will convince his friends that he is super badass just because he can cab one onto a rail, which is not core and not Hesh to do. For this next segment, we are going to refer to the chorus snowboarder, the most Hesh snowboarder of all time, 303 Gene Ski. And let's hear what he has to say about Copper, about Eldora, about being Hesh.
Yeah, after that nightmare of a day at Copper Mountain, luckily I found this place called Eldora. It's a little bit more core, a little bit more low-key. I'm still probably the most Hesh person here. Who's that? Who is that? Oh, he's Hesh. I was like skiing Copper the other day and the vibes were so aggro. I was just like the only chill one there. Bro, I hate Copper! Oh, I bet.
So Mr. Gene Ski was claiming that Copper is a little bit more aggro, not as Hesh as Eldora, and I would agree. Eldora is more Hesh, and Copper certainly is not Hesh. The Trailer Park Boys would not spend, $200 on a lift ticket to ride at Copper. They just wouldn't do that. Is Copper core? It's never my intention to upset these contest chads and these contest dads, because frankly, this is a physically strong demographic and a monetarily wealthy and therefore powerful demographic. And, I never want to cause any internet beef with a physically strong and powerful demographic, because I'll lose any day of the week. Despite my scaredness of contest dads and contest chads, I must speak my truth. And I have a little bit of a vendetta against Copper, because this season I went to Copper 9 times, and every single time I went there, the Central Park was closed. Now granted, I did go in the late season and I did go in the early season. I went 4 times where there was a contest going on and Central Park was closed to the public, which is a bummer, especially when you're driving 3.5 hours. In my opinion, it's not core to close the park to the public. When I was going up the Central Park chairlift on the day that Central Park was closed, and I was observing the contest scene, and there was like 30 to 40 people standing at the drop-in of the XL line, and the vibe was eerie amongst them. It was completely silent. nobody was laughing, nobody was talking, no jokes going on. And that's because these boys are about to chuck some double corks on the XL line. They are risking certain death. It was more of we are invading the beaches of Normandy type of vibe than I can't wait to drop in and go snowboarding type of vibe.
You're shaking. Are you nervous? Are you cold? What's going on?
Yeah, I'm absolutely terrified. I do not want to be doing these tricks.
Run 1 of 3. Here we go. Troy Poppelsack wrapping up. He is going. Oh!
These comp jocks, they don't look like they're having that much fun. And believe it or not, having fun is the very central core of snowboarding. And if you think that sounds like some liberal hippie propaganda, just think about it, because having fun is the factual core of snowboarding. And yeah, all of these comp kids had the 1,000 yard stare, the I have witnessed the horrors of war type of look in their eyes. Yeah, okay. And at the end of the day, if you took your average Olympic snowboarder and morphed him into a ski area, he would be Copper Mountain. So yeah, Copper's just far too contesty to be core. Alright, so 303 Gene Ski was arguing that Eldora is a little bit more Hesh, a little bit more core than Copper. It's not Hesh because it's not free, you still need an icon pass, but it is, you know, a little bit more core than Copper. Pretty much every ski area is more core than Copper. But is it actually, you know what? I'm just gonna give them core because I don't want to upset any CU baddies. I always want to try to stay on their good side, and I'm not gonna slander their precious Eldora. So yeah, Eldora gets core because of the CU baddies. Woodward, would the Trailer Park Boys spend their hard-earned weed cash to jump on an indoor trampoline into a foam pit and to ride rollerboards or sign up for summer camp? They certainly not. In fact, doing all of those activities is like the least core and least Hesh thing one can do. So you may be asking yourself, well, where the fuck can I ride that's actually Hesh? And like I said, it needs to be free. Ski areas are core and central to snowboarding, but all ski areas cost money, so they're not Hesh. But there is one place, one magical place known as Ruby Hill that is both core and Hesh, because Ruby Hill is absolutely free. It is a skate park on snow, funded by the city of Denver. But Ruby Hill's still not the most Hesh place one can snowboard. Government approval is not Hesh, and Ruby Hill is based off of government approval. If you want to be Hesh, you can't be riding metal either, dude. What are you, some steel prima donna? You need to be jibbing some crappy aluminum, some PVC, some corrugated tubes, and you can find all of that at your DIY spot. This is the love zone, but this icon represents any sort of DIY snowboarding. Your DIY spot is the Heshest place that you can ride besides the streets. Back to Mr. 303 Gene Ski.
Starting to get the feeling that this kid doesn't burn. Yo, I don't want to accuse you of anything, but what you did back there is not core.
Alright, so yeah, not smoking weed, as I discussed earlier. You can't be Hesh unless you're high. Alright. I paused here because we're gonna, we're snowboarders here. We don't understand the complexity of this ski trick, so I'm gonna convert this ski trick into a snowboard trick. I think this is called a ski slide 450, what he's about to do. The general consensus is that this would be board slide 450 if it was converted into snowboarding. But to me, if you got a snowboard on right now, that's more of a 50-50 front three out, you know what I'm saying? Which is controversial. That's discrediting a full 90 degrees of Mr. Gene Ski's rotation. But, I'm just throwing that out there to be a little contrarian. But anyways, we can assume that this trick is in between the difficulty of a 360 out and a board slide 450 out. But let's hear what his more Hesh friend has to say about this either 3 out or 4 out by us snowboarders.
Check that!
Is that what I thought that was? Yo, that is not cool, not Hesh.
Oh, that was just like a joke.
Can't be spinning that much. Clearly not Hesh. Have a good time at Copper.
And he said, go back to Copper with that with that spinning. And yeah, I would completely agree. Spinning is a way to try hard to be Hesh. It's very core. You know, it's extremely core to do like a huge ass 270 onto a street rail. If you're buying a new board at your local shop, you're supporting your local shop, which is inherently core. You're buying a new board, so you're also supporting professional snowboarding and hopefully your favorite professional snowboarder. So those two activities are extremely core. So we'll put them up here. But there is nothing Hesh about spending $500 on a new board. If you want to be Hesh, go to Facebook Marketplace, find a used board, go to the most Hesh snowboard shop, which is Goodwill. And really, that is the main difference between being core and being Hesh. Being core a lot of times means you have to spend your money in order to support the core of snowboarding, while being Hesh, if you're buying a used board, you know, you're not really directly funding professional snowboarding and core snowboarding, but you still are being Hesh, you know, but not necessarily core. Duct tape, once again. If you buy duct tape, you're not supporting any core snowboard brand, but duct tape is extremely Hesh. Let's say you want to be a Hesh snowboarder, but you find yourself in not the most Hesh environment. You find yourself at a contesty Red Bull heavy metal environment. And while Red Bull heavy metal is probably a more Hesh type of contest, it still is a contest, and it still got government approval by the city of Boston, which is inherently un-Hesh. But you find yourself in a setting like this, and you still want to be a Hesh snowboarder. What do? You do the Lucas Magoon technique, which is to jib stuff that is not supposed to be jib. You jib the infrastructure around the contest and not the jibs you're supposed to jib. And yeah, Lucas Magoon knows what he's doing. His fit is Hesh, jibbing this and jumping over the pole. Very Hesh. Yeah, and this can be translated into even less Hesh settings. I don't know if this has been done before, but I really want to see it. I want to see one of these Olympic snowboarders go out of the deck and jib this guardrail and then drop back in. You know, that will cost them any sort of medal, but they would get the people's medal if they do that. If anybody went out of the deck and jibbed one of these banners, I would forever, ever be a fan of you, and I would buy whatever pro board you had if you did that. So, yeah, jib stuff that's not supposed to be jib, and then you still can be Hesh at a very un-Hesh setting. So, Lucas Magoon jibbing thou that shan't be jibbed gets Hesh in my book. Who is this down here? Mr. Jake Aaronson, aka East Butt Fuck. Do you receive much support from snowboard brands? Nope. This dude does it himself, which is inherently Hesh. He gets this week's Heshest Snowboarder of All Time award. And if you don't know why he is Hesh, I'll leave links in the description to his videos. Go check him out if you're not aware of this absolute legend, because he is probably one of my favorite snowboarders and the most Hesh snowboarder right now. Alright, my video and my YouTube channel, not core and not Hesh. This is extremely cringe. Am I Hesh outside of this channel? Is my snowboarding Hesh? I'll play a little edit and let you guys decide.
Okay, dog, you ready for that 1, 2, 3, 4 combo?
I don't know if there's anybody out there who is still really, truly supporting Kanye West.
Oh, yeah. See you outside again. Just
fucking awesome.
Out with your friends, hanging with my
Garbage can lids and just shitty old shit I found around the park. Put nice glitter paint on it, made it look fucking awesome.
Everything that we had seen, that's when I
Decent.
Gave my cousin head. Gave my cousin head. I gave my cousin head.
Oh! Wow! I want to do that! Good job!
Thank you guys.
Is there a Hesh side or not Hesh side?
No, it ain't no Hesh or not Hesh.